Natsura 0.7 has just released. It's the first time since 0.5 where we've been able to go through and update our documentation and learning materials, and we'll be providing more examples and learning content over the coming weeks, as the tools are finally reaching a shape where we can be confident that we won't be breaking previous examples in the future. Running commercial early access has been a thrill, and we've learned a ton from our early adopters and the studios who were brave enough to give the evolving toolkit a chance. Since this is the first time doing an announcement video like this, we'll cover the changes that have happened throughout early access so far, and not focus only on the most recent additions in 0.7. If you'd rather just get stuck straight in, you can go to our website and download the free version of Natsura Apprentice, which can run with Houdini Apprentice, which is also free. With Natsura Apprentice, you have access to try out pretty much the entire toolkit, excluding only exporting the trees you make. For example, if you wanted to take them to game engines such as Unreal. Natsura is the only complete Foliage toolkit that has a first-class support for exporting Nanite assemblies to Unreal, and we offer a much greater degree of control over your instances of assemblies than you'll find anywhere else. Natsura is a fresh, innovative, and complete solution to modelling vegetation for games and films, unlocking powerful new workflows, and most importantly, giving complete control to the artists and studios using it. The tools began life as a simulation tool where artists crafted recipes to describe how species evolve over time. This is still the backbone of our approach to modelling plants with Natsura because it allows artists to get closer to how trees grow in reality. But through real-world use and production testing, we've learned that we need to put equal effort and attention into creating a UX that makes the tools a joy to use, as well as intuitive manual and interactive controls in the viewport for our users. In Side Effects Project Elderwood, we demonstrated how we were able to set up guide curves and magnet influences to control the shape of the tree's growth and the canopy pruning. Since then, we've taken this proof of concept, and we've developed a first-class system inside of Natsura called Effectors. Effectors are a way that artists are able to create and express their own controls to shape a tree's growth, and we ship a library of preset effectors, such as the magnet effector, deflection effector, gravity effector, and more. We'll keep adding to this growing library of effectors as time goes on to offer more in-viewport control and botanically inspired influences on growth. But if you know how to write a little bit of Vex or do some scripting, it's also trivial to create your own effectors out of just a few lines of code. The first years of Natsura's life have really been a focus on how do we build the best possible toolkit for combining simulation, procedural editing, and manual control, the shaping of the tree. And as a result, our approach to meshing has lagged slightly behind. Now, this is no longer the case, and meshing is a first-class priority with us, along with refining and finishing the rest of the shaping tools. Our goal with meshing is to make it engine and rendering agnostic, easy to use, but extremely flexible, customizable, and powerful. Meshing in Natsura is handled by a concept we call decorations. Decorations are processes that are defined that can then be assigned to different parts of the growing system. As with Effectors, we provide a preset library of decorations, such as the surface decorator for sweeping trunk geometry, and the assembly decorator for dealing with rigged hierarchies of instances that are branches that you can use to craft the canopy of your tree. We listened to our user feedback and watched patterns of how people were working with the tools, and knew that we needed to bring in-viewport real-time control to canopy shaping and branch selection. This allows you to distribute modules on the tree according to their health or age or size, which are then compared against those same attributes across the structure of the tree. Some of these properties are intrinsic properties of both the module and the tree, but you can easily invent your own properties or derivatives of existing attributes using the mapping framework to come up with placement logic that can be as simple or as complex as you need it to be. It's impossible to express the full variety of plant shapes and behaviors for a single set of rules and parameters. Mapping inside of Natsura allows artists to create and express their own controls through something like a shader graph where instead of controlling the color of pixels, you're controlling the behaviors that drive growth on a per point basis using attributes that come from the simulation and the environment. There's really no limits to what you can achieve with the mapping system, but a simple example is just modifying the pitch of a child branch according to where it is on its parent. A slightly more advanced example would be driving the bud probability according to the amount of shade that it's receiving. Natsura's intrinsic attributes already allow you to do a ton, but if you know how to write a little bit of Vex and are comfortable working with a Natsura wrangle or a Natsura effector, you can set up novel behaviors and even botanically inspired sims. In Natsura, we also offer an even more direct form of control. The Natsura Simulate node has an interactive state where you can go in and pose the branches directly, You can even scrub the simulation back to an earlier stage of growth, pose the branches, and then watch the simulation unfold in a new direction. This is especially powerful when combined with using an environment input to simulate, because if a tree is growing underneath a building, a small nudge at the start of the life of the tree is often all that's needed to produce a completely different end result. This is thanks to the simulation's interaction with the intrinsic attributes and effectors that are generated from having an environment input, such as the phototropism direction and thigmotropism. With an environment input plugged in, it's easy to set up simulations of ivy growing over surfaces, and even other trees that you've simulated with Natsura. The output of a Natsura simulation is always a rigged and skinned geometry. This means that you can pose the trees after the fact and set up your own simulations using Kinefx and Vellum. We haven't even come close to covering everything that Natsura has to offer. There are over 180 nodes in the toolkit, covering everything from dealing with high poly trunk scans straight out of reality capture, procedurally extending scanned trunks, importing atlas materials to generate leaf and twig geometry, texture baking and tileable texture generation, and the whole new assembly framework that shipped with Natsura 0.7. In previous versions of Natsura, we rudely take over the Houdini interface by default and didn't offer users a way to set up their own preferences or dock Natsura panels inside of the existing Houdini UI. Now all of the Natsura panels can be laid out however you want within the interface, and we've taken steps to bring the styling closer to native Houdini, and we've added preferences that allow users to toggle on and off certain features as they wish. Please keep the feedback coming, because without your help, it's not possible to improve the tools. And finally, we'd like to extend a huge thank you to all of our early adopters. As a self-funded team, every purchase makes a real difference, and it's what has enabled us to keep going. We have a pretty clearly defined roadmap now for what's left to take us to version 1 of the tools, but there's still time to join early access and help to influence and shape the direction. We'll soon be launching a content library, which will allow artists to get up and running with common European species more quickly. And towards the end of this year, we'll be adding traditional pipeline support with LODs, imposters, and shader-based wind setups. If you'd like to learn more about the tools before giving them a try, we'll be talking as part of the Dynasty Empire conference, along with 4 of the artists whose work has been featured in this video. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching, and we're excited to share more of our work with you over the coming months.